Hello, everyone. I'm Joanna Santos. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Notre Dame. And today I'll talk about my research in the area of software engineering and software security. So back in 2017, we heard about the WannaCry ransomware, in which attackers leveraged a vulnerability in an older version of Windows in order to encrypt user files and then demand a ransom payment. And that was not the only one ransomware attack that we heard. More recently, a group of researchers, they found several bugs in SolarWinds products. And one of them actually allowed remote code execution. So these were severe bugs that led to vulnerabilities in which could be used by attackers to do malicious activities. So that's why more and more software vendors are pressured into building secure systems. So they work by looking at the software functionalities, which are what the system should do, but also a series of security goals, which are confidentiality, integrity, availability, non-repudiation, authenticity. So in light of those goals, software architects, they make design decisions. So they want to make decisions to make the system to fulfill all of those goals. And this is called secure by design. So in our real world, when we are trying to protect, let's say, our house, we might apply some strategies, right? So for example, you might put a lock to resist intrusions or put a camera to detect an intrusion or call the police whenever there is an intrusion, or maybe call your insurance company to recover from damages. So likewise, in software systems, we also have some common strategies that we can apply when we are designing our software system. And these are called architectural security tactics. So architectural security tactics are reusable design mechanisms that you can apply to fulfill some security goals. So for example, authentication of actors is a security tactic that you use to verify the identity of a user interacting with your system. So even though you might actually adopt some of those strategies, things can go wrong. So that's why we have software vulnerabilities. So software vulnerabilities are caused by either a bug or a design flaw. So bugs are a problem at they are just basically programming mistakes that can lead to a security implication. And design flaws, they are actually at a deeper level in the sense that they actually happen during the design of the software rather than during the implementation. So an example of that is client-side authentication, in which the architects had placed the authentication in the client side rather than in the server side, and then attackers can easily bypass the authentication mechanism. So in light of that, my overall research goal is to actually help software architects in creating a software architecture that fulfill all of its security goals. And not only that, but also I would like to help enforce a correct implementation of those design decisions by creating techniques that can automatically detect software vulnerabilities by analyzing source code. So in light of those goals, in prior work, I conducted several empirical studies in which I looked at vulnerabilities in open source projects that were widely used. So for example, Chromium, Thunderbird, PHP, Firefox. And some of the key findings are that input validation and access control were very highly vulnerable in the sense that they were the most occurring types of vulnerabilities in those software systems. And I also find that reusing or importing vulnerable libraries was also very, very common in compromising the security of these studied projects. And in fact, we also find that plugins and extensions are commonly used by attackers to breach into a software system. And finally, we also find that validating inputs and authorized actors, these are common strategies, common security tactics that get compromised when there is a mistake. So from the results of this study, I could find some of the implications for both the research community and practitioners. The first one is it's extremely useful for you to actually track any API or library that you are actually using in your software, because if those external components, they are vulnerable, then you have to patch your system immediately by updating the version you have. Also, it is very, very important that you do trace your security mechanisms, that is your security tactics to code, so that whenever a developer is making changes to those source code, you can monitor if those changes will introduce a vulnerability. And finally, it is very important that you also educate your engineers in architecture principles so that they do not make mistakes when they are actually implementing those design decisions. With that being said, I conclude my talk, and if you'd like to have more details on the research I do, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.